So we're officially recording. It's the 14th of May, and I'm joined by 3 of my former students today to talk about life after high school. I'm very excited to introduce you to Margaux, to Isaline, and to Vincent. We're going to take you on a little journey back in time for them, but a fast forward in time for you. So don't hesitate if you have any questions. Don't hesitate. Turn on your computer cameras if you want, so we can talk to something other than a little black box with a name in it. But you do as you wish. So I'm going to start with asking each of the students to introduce themselves, so you get a little feel for who they are and what they've been doing. My 2 former students, Margaux and Isaline, are from Lycée Notre-Dame de Boulogne. So I have called one of the director of Lycée Notre-Dame de Boulogne and asked him to spread the message. So I don't know if we have any students from Lycée Notre-Dame, but they might join us, which would be really cool. So he was really excited about the project too. So, and Vincent turned his camera on. And Vincent is from Prépa Saint-Aubin-la-Salle, and he'll be telling you a little bit about his life and his projects. So, Margaux, you're in the top of the screen, you're in the top corner. Do you want to start? Introduce yourself, a little bit what you did after high school?
Of course. So hi, everyone. I'm Margaux. I'm 24 years old now, and I've been Mrs. C student back in 2010, so 10 years ago. So after high school, I've made plenty of different things. So keep your seatbelt attached. Sorry. First, I made a class prépa for the business schools. So I did that during 2 years, and it was a really great experience because it really learned me to focus and to work on plenty of hard topics at the same time and really push my boundaries. So after this, I went into ESSEC Business School, which was my dream. So I was super excited about this. And during my business school, I also wanted to test a few different things. So I had the opportunity to study abroad in Finland, where I was in a design school for 6 months. So that was a great experience. And as design was one of my passions, I was super happy to be able to do that during my studies. And after this, I also did something very different from my business school, which was a master's in data science. So basically, I was learning how to code, to analyze big amounts of data. I don't know if you guys know a bit about big data, but basically that was it. So now I've been working for 7 months at Airbnb in Paris now as a data analyst, and I was super excited to join this company because I was always into the hotel and restaurants industry. So so basically, yeah, I've been doing tons of stuff since high school, and I'm very happy that I could have done all of this.
I'm trying to write it all down on the side here as you talk to give the students some keys to understanding where and when. I missed a step here. Can you tell us a little bit about your study abroad?
Yeah, so I've been studying abroad twice. The first time was in Singapore. So basically my business school, ESSEC, has a campus there. So I've been living and studying there for 6 months. And the second time was in Finland. So that was an academic exchange as part of my business schools, but I kind of, I went to a different department during this study, during this time abroad to study design.
Okay. So if I understand correctly, you really encompassed arts and science in your path. You have essentially exploded the French system, LESS, haven't you?
Yeah, a problem with me is that I've always wanted it all, but basically I've achieved that in my studies, so it's okay. You can do it, guys. If you want to experience different things, it's possible. I can account for that.
You've always wanted it all. And now you said you worked a little bit for Airbnb Paris. That's what you mentioned in your last thing. Okay, good. Well, we're really excited to have questions and dive deep into this profile, which is literally, as I said, the explosion of the traditional French system and showing that you can be well-rounded and be also a global citizen. So thank you. Isaline, another one of my global citizens. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing since I saw you last in 2010 in Seconde?
It doesn't seem like that long ago.
Really?
So, Mrs. C, I don't know if you can hear me well because it's really echoey. Okay. So Mrs. C was my teacher when I was in Seconde, and I graduated high school in 2014. So after high school, I left France to go study abroad immediately, and I did a Bachelor of Commerce at McGill University in Montreal, in Canada, in business. So I focused on finance and entrepreneurship. And then I graduated in 2017, and I moved to Spain. And in Spain, in Madrid, I did my master's degree in management, but that lasted only for a year. So it was a one-year degree. And then I still did not know what I wanted to do. So I sort of looked around and I took pretty much the first good offer that I got. And I moved back to Montreal, Canada, and I started working at Deloitte. I don't know if you guys know about Deloitte. It's just like a auditing and consulting firm. And I started working there. So I was back in Montreal, which was really nice because I had all my friends from my studies. And I worked there for a year and a half. And I just quit my job back in January, so before the whole pandemic situation started. And so I just quit my job before the virus, and with the optic in mind to move back to France. But because of the virus, I was able to move back to France only a week ago. So I'm back in Paris only since last week. And it's been pretty good because the weather is pretty nice here. It's pretty warm. So
yeah,
that's it.
So I can imagine you're experiencing a little bit of culture shock returning in your country is also a culture shock. We forget that it is, but it's also a culture shock. And the shock of finding yourself in COVID-19, I can't say post-COVID-19 yet, but in COVID-19, without a job, are you back with your parents, or are you back in an apartment?
Yes.
So
I'm back at my parents' place, so I haven't lived at home since I was 17 years old, and now it's interesting. Let's say.
So you're back into your bedroom with your posters of Matt Damon, and that's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's not too bad. It's not too bad, but as soon as I find a job, I hope to find my apartment here in Paris.
Yeah, no, but I mean, COVID, we're going to be talking about it, how this is a time that's really helping us go into what we want and we're actually going back to our former selves and trying to figure out a path forward. So thank you. I'll be really excited with the students to dive into that. There's a lot to look at, a lot of questions. And our final guest today is Vincent, or Vincent as I call you. And we met in Prépa
Do you hear me
Saint-Aubin.
well?
Yeah?
You can hear me well. Okay, because I wasn't sure. Yeah, so I've been in Saint-Aubin for 5 years. I did my high school there. I followed the scientific field in the high school, and then I went directly into the prep school, PTSI-PT, which prepares. I don't know. Because I was not here at the beginning of the session, maybe there are people who don't know what is prep school yet in high school. I don't know if
You can talk about it a little bit. I'm not sure everybody knows.
Yeah, basically that's a 2 years preparation for the concours, which allows you to go into the engineering school of your dreams. Well, it's supposed to be like that, and then so you have this is typically studies where you prepare for something and you are not sure what you will get after, so a bit of a stressful studies, but then generally people are always quite happy after prep school and you find yourself what you like, and that's it. So you can say hi to Kenya also.
Ah.
Just visited me.
Adopted before COVID, or?
Adapted before COVID, what?
Yeah, did you get her before?
Oh,
the
yeah,
pandemic?
yeah. She's here since a long time now. And basically after my prep school studies, I went into a school named Isaline. So that's an institute for applied science, institute for national applied science, something like that. And I entered an apprenticeship degree. So I'm part-time doing in school and part-time in a company for the whole 3 years of the engineering school. And I'm studying embedded electronics, some technical stuff in the electronic and ICT field. Not like, it's not a degree which gets you to do some mechanical stuff, some civil engineering things. It's dedicated to electronic and ICT, this kind of technical stuff, I mean. And well, what I'm still doing it. So I'm doing this degree since 2 years and a half, let's say. I'm finishing in end of September, and after that, this year you have to know that I not enjoying as much as the beginning what I'm doing, for some reasons, like being aware of climate change and taking some awareness on climate change and how much it will affect our lives. And it hit me so hard that I decided not to go in this field anymore and to just study things on my own, like energy, climate, sociology, because it's a huge sociology subject, politics and stuff, and basically to go in that way. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do exactly. Like, it's not a standard thing working in a company, getting paid every month for doing a specific job. It will just be like, I'm doing some projects on, I don't know if you heard about low tech. It's like the opposite of high tech, things that you can repair and stuff.
I thought that was just an expression. I thought that was an expression I made up when I called myself low tech. I just said I'm low tech. I didn't think it was an actual thing.
It actually exists, and you can find websites where you can build your own low tech technologies. And maybe also we are preparing something in my engineering school, which will be a new course dedicated to thinking back what you are doing as an engineer, like analyzing the needs before the creating the solutions, and which is called remettre en cause. It will be called remettre en cause. We think it will be like that. The cat is trying to eat what's left in my plate. Sorry, and so basically it will be something like that. And what I tell all my friends about what I'm going to do next year is unemployment, and that's not smart.
Me too.
Yay!
Yeah,
so that's it.
this is my favorite part of the conference, because we get to find what links the three of them together, right? You have to find commonalities. Does anybody see any commonalities between the three profiles? Well,
I mean,
I can find a commonality between all of us. Vincent, did you find it for the $100 question?
We've all been into Saint-Aubin. I can't be mistaken by that.
You actually can be mistaken, because
all went abroad to study. All went abroad to study. All went abroad to study.
You all went abroad to study? Yeah.
That's actually true, but I didn't mention it. Yep.
Yeah.
They all graduated in high school.
End of September. End of September for me. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I see. Well, I see they're all. Sorry?
Aren't we all looking for a job right now?
Yeah.
I would say even more specifically, from what I hear, you're all at a crossroads. You're all at a crossroads. Yep. And in fact, we're all of us at a crossroads, le carrefour, right? Where we're deciding, well, what path are we going to take now? And so I can see that Margaux is just finishing up with Airbnb. She's got prospects for a future, but doesn't know which prospects are going to take the most volume of your time. Isaline, complete reroute, right? Complete reroute, and now she's going to think about,
absolutely,
what do I want out of this life? And then Vincent, who had this year what he called the climate slap, which is when
something like that.
That's what you called it last time. You said I was literally slapped in the face. It. And so this idea that Vincent wakes up and says, wait, why am I working in this field? I really might want to change. And I thought that when I called you back up, Vincent, it was because I know a lot of students right now are focused on eco-friendly policies. They're really worried. Some of them are worried about their future, and some of them have taken kind of steps little by little. I'm thinking about Manon maybe, and some of the things that you've been working on, Manon. If I'm not mistaken, with maybe some makeup or making your own creams and that kind of thing. She's interested in that. And other students who are going back to nature. And I think everybody's kind of moving back to nature. So that's why we brought on Vincent. And I think you can talk a lot about that, that realization that you had. So let's maybe go to something specific to me, but maybe will help you and my students. How did your English get so good? I mean,
I guess going abroad for every one of us.
You think that's what made it change, going abroad?
Practicing, yeah, of course. Well, to take my example, I went to Germany for 3 months between July and September, and I didn't know any German, so I had to, well, I tried German, but I did Spanish in high school, and it was not that well. So I practiced English a lot there, and then a little bit more before, well, 2 weeks in England and stuff. But yeah, really practicing is basically the way you end up with vocabulary and accent, and because you need it, it's adaptation under constraint.
pas là-bas.
Yeah, and
Some
Isaline,
technical difficulties.
yeah. Isaline, did you
Well, I had to study in sorry, there was some delay. I had to study in English for 4 years, and I mean they speak French in Montreal as well, but I had to live in English a lot, and I was working in English as well because the rest of Canada they speak English only. So I didn't really have a choice. But now it's actually it feels much more comfortable to speak now. I don't have to think about it anymore. I wouldn't say I'm completely bilingual, but it's almost there now after 6 years abroad. So
Yeah, 6 years abroad.
I think time does its practice. Yeah.
Yes, I think so too. I also have I wanted to go downstairs. I forgot to bring it up, but in seconde, I asked my students to write a story. Do you remember this? I asked you to write a Gothic fiction story, a kind of mystery. And Isaline brought it to me. It was a PDF.
No, that doesn't speak to me.
You wrote it, it was entitled The Premonitory Dream. And it was, I think, double-spaced Times New Roman 12 font, like something like 18 pages long in seconde. So I was looking at this and I saved your work and I said, Isaline, really, in seconde, you already knew that spending time on English and really spending time in your studies was going to pay off. And that's something that you and Margaux had in common, because Margaux,
I think my parents told me that a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed what you said because there's a lot of delay between us, I think.
Yeah, I think, and it might be my internet connection also. Margaux, I also remember in seconde, you said right now you've always wanted it all. And I remember that in seconde too, wanting to do more exercises, more work, more practice. And I think that you knew already in seconde that you loved school and that you wanted to go far.
Yeah, especially with English, though, I was always interested in English, and I have to say that you've been pushing my English boundaries even further. And after seconde, it was the start of my love for English, and it's something that I've really appreciated working on after that.
Well, I loved it too, obviously, and I saw that you in seconde at Notre Dame, you really loved it from the beginning, the whole class. We have some memories of that. And I think that when you love something, you work it the most, clearly.
Exactly.
My question for you, a lot of the students have asked how to become independent. And last week we looked at the question, but I want to kind of dive into it even more. Do you have any tips about getting to a point where you can, say to your parents or say to your friends and teachers, I feel like I can handle this. I can go out next year and handle it. Do you have any tips or advice or stories?
Is it being independent like having not you have no need anymore for your parents' money, or what's exactly being independent? You have to place the cursor somewhere.
Yeah, we have to place the cursor somewhere. I think
Yes.
Financial independence is important. It's an aspect we kind of talked about last week, how to use English to make money. So if you have any tips on how to make money, my students and we want to listen to those tips. Obviously, the financial independence. Also,
That's
maybe
entirely.
Yeah.
I mean that's based on inequalities, because my parents were like middle class workers. They had a bit of money just to help me go into prep school and into high school, and then someone has his.
Yeah, it's Kumba.
Kumba.
Her window is flashing here. I
Okay.
turned her off.
So yeah, I what did I say? Yes, I had this. They paid for the beginning of my school years, and then I went into apprenticeship. So I was paid by the company, and this way this made me independent from my parents. Apart from the insurance of my car, but that's about all. That's about all. No, they don't pay anything more for me. So this way, apprenticeship helped me. I got friends who worked on weekends and on evenings. Yeah, well, basically, in being financially independent, well, you need money, you need to work in this system. But if you have parents who, well, well, you got what I mean.
But having
I
parents
think
that have,
if
yeah,
I may add my
go for it.
if I may add my pinch of salt, I think independence does not have to be something concrete and material only. I don't think you only need the money and the work to be fully independent. I think it has to start from your mindset. So I think your students are between 16 and 18 years old, something like this. So maybe independence can start by just doing things by yourself at home, making sure you do your own research for what your own interests are and not what your parents' interests are. Make sure you start, searching for what it is you really want to do in life, how to do chores by yourself. I had to learn how to wash my clothes and my dishes only once I was sent abroad in Canada. And in Canada, I didn't know how any of the machines work. The machine to wash anything, I didn't know at all. And I had to learn with other people who didn't know either. So you better start as soon as you can, because it will only make your life easier. And I think between 16 and 18, you shouldn't worry too much about the money yet, unless you're in a very difficult situation. But if you really want to start working during summers or during the pandemic, if you want to help out, there's a lot of organizations, a lot of shops which need help, which will offer you jobs to help out and do things you are able to do once you are 16 and above, I think. Or you can do babysitting or help out, old people, and they'll give you a little money. If you really want to become financially independent very soon, you can also as well get your driver's license. So there's a lot of things you can do even now, even today. You don't have to be working yet to become independent, I think.
I think that's really good advice, and it speaks to some of the students who are looking for something to do. And I think that the idea that you can, yeah, I think that you can, this is Mylisa's eternal debate and dilemma for people who don't watch kids, what solutions are available for her.
What do you care about more, being alone or getting money?
Yeah, oh, sorry, go on.
Sorry. So, in fact, I work, but I'm not paid for that, so it's a problem.
Why are you not paid?
It's in a library, so it's benevolent, so I don't get money.
Well, I think what I think is it's not the best that you're not getting paid for it, but you know what? It's actually a good experience. It's volunteering experience, and it's something you can put on your CV, and it's something you can show off about at any internship interview you might have or something like this.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think Mr. Thierry would agree that
Yes.
working in a library is a really amazing thing to have on your CV.
It's a very good idea to work in a library, even if you are not paid for that work. You will win some good confidence, good confidence for the future maybe. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know which competence we need in the future. So even if you are not paid, you can use this competence for work in the future. We don't know when we are 20 or maybe 8.
I think you bring us to a really interesting question, Arno. You just said we don't know what skills are going to be needed in the future. And I think that all of us, let's think together about that. What do you think we're going to need in the next 10 years? Like, what is going to pay off? What have you learned during this confinement experience about skills for the future?
Good question.
A great question.
Yeah, and I think that if we find the key to it, we can really make a better life for ourselves post-COVID. Margaux, maybe we can start with you on that question, because Margaux is a data scientist and a photographer. I've seen some of your photos on your blog. It's amazing. Which of your skills in your skill set do you think are going to be the most needed in a world post-COVID?
There's a big fuss around big data and data science today. Plenty of people are talking about it and saying it's the career of the future, because basically today what happens is that companies have tons of data about customers, about how they behave online, and there are tons of things that can be understood from this data. So that's why today there are plenty of data scientist positions that are opening, because companies are trying to understand their consumers, and basically the data scientists and data analysts allow just to do that. So it's a very interesting position, and that's why I'm so interested in it. It's because it's about understanding people, and it's super interesting for any type of company to be able to understand the people that they're dealing with.
That's an interesting question, and it sparks a huge debate. And the debate is, well, am I willing to do a job that is aligned, maybe not aligned with my values for society? I'm not saying that, Margaux, you're going to do something that's not aligned with your values. But when I think about Vincent, who looks at his life and says, wait, hold on, let's back up here. And you're going to be holding the key to some of those numbers, but also, do you interpret that as being able to help society in this pandemic, be able to identify the people who are sick, be able to have a full transparency, and that might be a key to the solution? Or do you see the debate as revealing some greater questions about privacy? And how do you situate yourself?
So I'm very wary about integrating values in my career. So I'm doing data science, but for me, there's no problem, because for instance, the privacy problem you're talking about, it almost doesn't exist, because all the data are anonymized. You're not working with Abigail C's data. You're working with Mrs. X data. You don't know who she is, and what you care about is basically just knowing what are the trends. You don't care about the people's data. So basically you're not spying on people. So I think this is an idea that is well spread in society, that people working with data are spying on people, but in reality they aren't. So that for me isn't a problem. And also I think it's a very interesting position, but you have the opportunity to choose in which company you're going to do it. So of course I'm not going to work for Total or I don't know, the war industry. I want to work for a company that's whose purpose makes sense for me. In that time, today I'm applying to ecological companies, for example, urban farming companies. So I want to serve a purpose that fits my values as well. So you can combine a data science position with something that really makes sense for you.
Okay, that sounds like, yeah, it sounds like that is aligning your values with your future jobs. Has anyone else thought about the question, some of the skills that they have that will help them in the future, or that will be seen as really, you know, useful and desired skills to have?
I think a really desirable skill to have would be emotional intelligence. I don't know if everyone is aware of what it is, but I think it's a skill that's even more required in any kind of company across all fields. There's a new way that people need to interact with each other. The hierarchies are a bit more blurred now, and I think you have to look for a company where you feel listened to and understood, and you have to look for a field of study where you can display that emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is basically just making sure that you speak and you interact and you think in a way that takes into account different things other than facts. So
Okay.
you don't take into account just the numbers, just the facts. You have to take into account the whole thing. So I think that's a really important skill. And I would add creativity to it. I think the only way that we make progress and we have innovation in all the fields is if we are creative and we try things that haven't been done before. So even if one day you think you have an idea and you think it might be stupid or that someone has already done it, you know, do your research, try to talk about your idea to other people and make sure it doesn't exist, because if it doesn't, maybe it should be done and maybe you should be the one to do it. So try to, you know, resparkle your creativity in everything you do, because I used to be creative more when I was a child, and you were probably more creative when you were a kid. And I'm trying to go back to that as I'm you know, unemployed. I'm trying to think about ways that I could, you know, do things differently and have little side projects on top of a 9-to-5 job. So yeah, try to think about things in a way that that sparks your interest. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really deep answer to something that we as teachers are also considering. It's the socio-emotional intelligence, or SEL. It's saying, well, our students who are suffering, if our students are suffering, it's not because they don't know 2 + 2 is 4. And let's take a look at how a student can emotionally live during a class experience. And the Americans, yeah.
It makes a great connection with, you said also, Isaline, that because I answered the question of financial independence on financial facts, but you said something that's interesting. It's about independence, considering doing something that I understood it like that, not your parents like, but that you like, and how the way you say the resparkle the creativity, that's quite right, because actually I realized that I was doing an engineering school partly because I liked to understand what was going on behind some systems and stuff, but also because once you are when you have quite good grades at school, you are indicated to go into this field or this field, and well, science interested me, so like it was putting myself into an engineering school because I was intended to do it, considering what the school system told me to
Because you
do,
had good grades. Yeah.
because I had good grades pretty much, and also because my parents, like, and that makes a link with what you said. My parents always said, like, are you fine with school, and well, is it okay at school? And then I wasn't realizing that I was making this engineering school also because my parents wanted me to do, kind of. And this is really important. Like, independence can also come from a deep reflection into yourself and saying, like, do I want to do this, to my example, engineering school because my parents want me to do it, or do I really want to go into these studies? Like, at night, do I dream about I dream
Embedded
about,
electronics.
yeah, electronics, or being on a computer analyzing how to create a good bridge? Or do I dream about, I want to draw, I want to do something uh, pretty much different, but that I like, and this is really important. Like, go for what you like is an advice that you hear all the time, but again, that's very, like, one of the best advice you can give to someone. Like,
Yeah.
just
do what you want to do what you like, what you enjoy doing.
Absolutely. Stop for an hour and just write on a paper what you like to do. I don't know, but I realized that I pretty much like to do, I like to do much more woodworking than, I concentrate much more while I'm doing woodworking, for example, than when I'm doing a task about electronics. And I have huge difficulties to concentrate during these teleworking times. Like, this is awful, awful. And
Yeah, remote working is not the best.
woodworking is the total opposite. Like, when I do it, I'm fully concentrated. I know I like it. So, as you said at the beginning, Mrs. C, once you love something, that's what you are best at, and that's where you will help society most, sort of. Like, that's where you will be the most effective. Enjoy what you do. Just live your life happily, kind of. Well, depends. You have.
It also
I think that
yeah.
brings up a great point about our education system in France. I think from a very young age, we are taught by our school and by our parents that there is 3 fields: scientific, economic, literary, which is completely wrong. In life, there is an infinity of fields you can do. All the fields overlap each other. You can do 1,000 jobs in literary that can be a bit scientific. Margaux is a perfect example of, doing everything.
Yep.
So I think we are taught that there's only 3 choices, and we are taught that we have to go to prépa, and we are taught that if you do a CAP in bakery, for example, or in woodworking, that you won't make it in life. So I think there's a lot of stereotypes, a lot of preconceptions that are wrong, and you have to throw them in the trash, and you have to think about what it is you really like doing, because then you'll be doing it probably for your whole life. Because then once you develop a skill and a specialization, you'll get better at it, and people will want you to work in it. So you have to make your choice carefully, but you can always go back, of course. We're all doing that right now. We're all changing fields.
Apprenticeship master told me once, in January, I was so desperate about what I was doing in my company that I said, maybe I will try to change company and to go into, like, to finish my apprenticeship degree in another company. It didn't end up this way. We changed what I did in the company, but before that, I talked with my apprenticeship master, and he told me, I was asking him, do you like what you do? And at one point, and he said, well, Vincent, after 20 years in the same field, in the same in the same on the same desk. And you know, I've got a wife who went into entrepreneurship, and it didn't work that way. I've got 4 children, so I'm doing that for food, you know. And when I hear that, it's like, oh, you don't really like what you do right now. It's kind of, I can understand that at one point, it's like love. At one point, it will slow down and it will be less important than at the beginning. But you've got to find something that you can appreciate your whole life, or that you will make you able to change if you want, and to, if you are a free spirit that goes into plenty of fields at the same time, like you need to go for what you love and not get stuck into something you don't.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna share with you. Oh, wait, sorry, go for it, Arnaud.
I have to go now. Thank you very much, Mrs. C, for this meeting, smart meeting. I will have enjoy hearing the terminals to know what they think about this subject.
Yeah.
Purpose, how to imagine our future, their future, when we're on terminal. Mails write that when they are in L, series L, it's very difficult to know what to do after the back. I know that. And for them, it should be very interesting to hear, to listen to the pitches of the former students about their own future. So you can you can repeat this experience.
Did I lose you?